Okay, we are on page 99, and the Halacha is Ma'amer, which is gathering, as translated here, others translated as bundling. So after the harvest, after everything was cut, then it was bundled or gathered, depending on what type of produce it was. So the Torah prohibition would basically be something that grows from the ground. So it was bundled for two purposes. One was to protect it. So if it were to be left in the field without bundling, everything, the wind would blow it away. We also have that it would be trampled. So then it was gathered in one place, and its purpose from there, it would be taken to its place of production. Page 99. It would be taken to its place of production. So therefore, if it is speaking about the grain, it would usually be long stalks. It would be bundled. And if it is something that grows from trees, it would be put into baskets. So this itself, placing things, bundling, gathering together things that are at its place of growth, that is the Torah prohibition. Another thing they would do is when they would be processing the fruit. So here we have on page 99 a Torah, which is they would compress the fruit. You would make it into one block, and then you would have like a fig block, and then you would cut off pieces as you were going along. That's the way it was sold as a block. So they're pressing it together, putting it into a block. That would be its gathering. Same with also when you have figs, sometimes they would string figs. Sometimes they still do so. With the figs from Greece or Turkey, what they do is they have a twig, they make a hole through the figs, put a twig through it, and then fasten it. And you never saw that being sold that way? Okay. Right now, everything is done in packages. But they still have those that come from Greece and from Turkey. And those you usually have to check very thoroughly for insects, because they're usually not this superior grade. The ones that come from California, we speak about figs, they're usually a superior grade, and therefore they're less insect infested. But those that come from Greece, Turkey, you really have to check them very well, because they do have insects inside. You have to open it up right before you eat it and look to see if there's anything that does not look right there. So doing this on Shabbos would be the malacha of ma'amer, gathering, and the rabbinical prohibition would also apply to things that come from the ground but do not grow from the ground. That would be gathering salt and putting that through in the containers in their place of production. Now, what about if you have a basket of fruit that was in a courtyard? So that's not the place where it grew. It grew in the field. So gathering and putting them in the basket, that would be the Torah prohibition. What happens now, you have a basket, and it's also outdoors. It's in your courtyard, in your yard. They didn't grow there, but they have a basket of apples there. And now the basket of apples tips over. So we have so this would be a rabbinic safeguard, because since it is outdoors, usually you would, if it'd be under the tree, you would put them into the basket. So therefore, this is rabbinically, you're not allowed to. What happens if they tip over and they fall in one place? You don't have to gather them. You don't have to put them together. So here again, it is permissible to put them back into the basket. If, however, they fell onto rocks or sand, so here we have another issue that's going to be connected to the Halacha of Borer, which is selecting. So here, you could not take them individually. You could only take them individually if you're going to be eating them. Because this is, since you're going to be separating them from the dirt, stones, sand, you'll be selecting them from the wanted and unwanted, so that's a different issue. If it's in the house, then it's not similar to its place of growth, and therefore that would be fine. Okay. Let's see. Gathering eggs from a chicken coop. This is similar to its place where it is produced, bringing them into they were laid on Friday. You did not collect them until Shabbos. So that would also not be collected.
If it was laid before Shabbos,
so then it's not.
and then could you use it on Shabbos? You can grab it.
Yes. As you not to gather them together and put them into a basket, then take them into the house. But you take each individual that what you want to use.
Yeah, on Shabbos you can take the ones that were like direct.
Okay. Okay, so now let's go to the next malacha. That's page 103. This is the text that we're using. We have books in the shelf. We have books in the shelf. Please, you could share with. Book of Shabbat, Ishmeru Shabbat. Okay.
$103.
103. So now we come to the next step, which is called threshing. Here we have, so we've gone from preparing the field, we've planted, they grew, it was harvested. After it was cut, it was then bundled. And now comes the next step, which is the example that's given is of grain. Let's take wheat, for instance. So wheat grows in a stalk and it has a shell. So now as a part of the processing, it is then the grain is removed from the shell. So that is the example that is given, even though we are speaking about the plants that were used for dye. As the Mishnah, when it describes the 39 categories, it describes it in a way that people were accustomed to. Most people were not dye makers, but people were making bread. So all of the details that went into making the dye also applies to making bread. And therefore, when the Mishnah gives the examples, it gives them examples of how to make bread. So that's why we're using, instead of using plants that are then processed to make dye, to make colors, we use examples of those types of plants that are used to make flour and then be baked into bread. So here we have threshing. And threshing is to commercially remove the outer covering in two ways. One way is by removing the shell. Another way is by putting on pressure. If you have wheat grain and it's in its shell, when it's dry, you just put on a little pressure on it, it shoots. It could go across the room. You know, like so that's what, so here we have two ideas when it comes to threshing. One is to remove the shell. Second one is putting pressure on the seed, on the grain, and as you put on pressure, it opens up and it comes out of the shell. So that's why we're going to be using in this malacha, we're going to be using two types of activities. One is removal of shell, and the other one is squeezing, and through the squeezing, that itself is going to find our objective, which is to remove that which is inside enclosed in the shell and to remove it. So let's look at the page 103. They would thresh the plants that were used to dye. How it was done in those times, here you have the picture. There was a threshing board, and the threshing board had very sharp points on the other side where that is coming in contact with the grain. And there you would have the animal that would pull the threshing board. And as it's being pulled across, what it's doing is it's ripping open the shells. And later what they're going to do is they're going to then throw the whole mixture into the air, and the wind would blow away the shell. The shell of the grain is very, very light. And that's called winnowing. We're going to see that in our next malacha. So they usually have that with with rice. If you ever see pictures of in India, they have these big baskets, and people are throwing the rice into the air. You see that? And its purpose is, again, the same idea, is that the wind is going to blow away the shell. It's interesting in Halacha, there is a Halacha how much you have to distance yourself from your neighbor when you're doing the winnowing. How far you have to be away from your neighbor's property. What's going to happen is when you throw it up in the wind is going to blow it in a certain direction. How far do you assume the wind will blow that it's still going to land on your property instead of covering up your neighbor's property with all the shells that he certainly does not want? So it's about 100 feet that you have to be away from your neighbor's property. That's how far we assume that the wind would carry the shell. Being that it's light, it's not going to go. It's going to go a certain distance. After that, it's just going to come down.
Can we eat pistachios on Shabbos?
Pistachios on Shabbos. So here we have, we're going to be speaking about in the Melacha of Bora, which is selecting. And the suggestion is that you do all the shelling before Shabbos. That's if you want pistachios, you get yourself a pack of pistachios in its shell, remove the shell before Shabbos, then you won't have an issue with the shell itself. The shell itself is muktzah. And therefore, we don't want to put ourselves in a situation, what are we going to do with the muktzah shells after we've removed it from after we've removed the nut from the shell? Or we're going to be sitting, standing over the garbage can and throwing them right in. So if there is a shell that's mixed together with the nuts and you're going to remove the shell, that was a malacha deraisa of the Torah prohibition. So the Alter Rebbe suggests, even though in Shulchan Aruch he says it's permissible, and you're even allowed to nuts, you're even allowed to halachically smash with a hammer, even though a hammer is muktzah, but if you're using it to smash nuts, halachically it would be permissible. Well, the Alter Rebbe tells us, don't do it on Shabbos, do it before Shabbos, because with pistachio, it's easier to deal with than with when you crack, for instance, walnuts. If you smash walnuts, they break into small little pieces. And you will have it, the nut and the shell is going to be mixed together. If you're going to remove the shell from the mixture, that was a Torah prohibition. If you remove the nut while you're ready to eat it, then that is permissible. So since the Alter Rebbe says the likelihood of forgetting that it's Shabbos and picking up a shell, then saying, avoid that situation to begin with, and therefore do this all before Shabbos. But halachically, it would be permissible. In Chabad, they do not have the shelling nuts on Shabbos. It's not done in Chabad. In other circles, they would do it. But again, figuring out what you're going to do with the shell after you've taken it off, after that, since it is being muktzah. So we have
now it's so easy because they come
in packages.
Yeah.
But you feel better when you're doing it.
Some ever. Like imagine.
Some people
having
just
that
like
job.
some people like to do that.
Yeah.
It gives them something to do with their hands, and they break them down.
I hope
Take
so.
the
I
shower.
hope.
So, so here we have the Torah prohibition was doing all of this threshing with a special tool, whether it's the thresher, or you have other tools that are specifically done. Then you have the tolda, which is also a Torah prohibition, but it's not done with a tool, but it's done by hand. And that would be, for instance, removing the legumes from their husk. And that would be if you have peas. You have peas in the pod. So they're I think it's called baby peas, but you actually eat the shell with the peas themselves. That is edible, it's fresh. But then you have the larger peas. When the shell dries out, you can't eat it together. You don't eat it together. What you do is, in the weekdays, you open up the shell and you open up the pod and you remove all the peas that are inside. Doing that on Shabbos is a malacha. Another malacha is page 104, squeezing, and again, putting on pressure and removing something that's enclosed in a shell. And by pressure, you're going to extract it. And that would be the olives. When we squeeze the olives, we're going to get olive oil. When we squeeze the grapes, we're going to get grape juice.
You can feel.
You could when you're ready to eat them, or right before the meal. When you want to eat a banana, you're allowed to eat a banana on Shabbos. You don't have to peel the banana before Shabbos because you're not going to want to eat it. When you're ready, when you're ready for the banana, you're not going to want to eat it. It's not going to look too appetizing. Therefore, you want the shell to be on there until you're ready to eat. So it's not called processing. It's called the manner of eating. The same is also going to be when you peel other fruits that you're ready to eat. You want an orange. You don't have to peel them before Shabbos because you want the peel to be on there until you're ready to eat the orange, because if you peel it before Shabbos, it's going to shrivel and become dry, and it's not going to be very appetizing. So the normal way of eating these fruits and vegetables that you normally would keep the shell on to keep it fresh until you're ready to eat it. It's not so when it comes to peas. The fresh peas, we're speaking about not the baby peas, but the fresh peas will be the same if you peel them on Friday or middle of the week. They keep as is. The same thing is also going to be with your nuts. They're going to stay fresh until you're ready to eat them. So that would be, if you're doing it in a large quantity, that would be production, not the manner of eating. So now,
cut the fruits and vegetables.
so
If you want to cut them, you can, but not very.
that's correct. We're going to come to that malacha itself as part of grinding. We're going to come to that category. We're going to come to peeling fruits and in the category of borer, of selecting. I'm just mentioning it as we're going along, but that's not our malacha that we're concentrating on now. Yes.
So like the peel of an orange or the shell of an egg, it's smoked stuff, right?
No, the peel of an orange is not muktzah because some people will, first of all, it's an edible peel. So you could feed it to, technically you could feed it to animals, or technically if you want to put it in your drink. Sometimes you slice an orange. Some people will remove the peel, others will scrub the peel and then put the orange slice with its peel into your drink. Same thing is also with lemon. If you want to put the lemon into a drink, you have lemonade, and the lemons are going to float on top. The peel isn't edible. The same thing that also would be with apples. Some people peel the apples, but the peel is an edible peel, so therefore that's not muktzah. So those types of peels are not muktzah.
So if it's something that's unedible, like the
Mhm.
eggshell, you should peel it like on top of the garbage.
That's correct. That would be our first choice, would be to peel the eggs, which is not edible, over the garbage can if you're doing that on Shabbos. And there are two other ways that we would handle the peel. One would be when you peel it into a plate that has something edible. So then the plate itself is not muktzah because there's edible food inside. You could do that in leftovers. Usually, I mean, why would you peel? You wouldn't want peel in something that you're actually going to eat. But if there is, if you're peeling the eggs during the meal, and there's a plate that has leftover food in it, that's whoever did not finish the food, but it's still edible food. So you could peel it into that plate. Now the plate itself has edible and not edible, muktzah and unmuktzah, and then non-muktzah would be take the primary category. And therefore, then you could carry the plate because it had muktzah and not muktzah in it. Another thing would be that if it's on your countertop and it's something that bothers you terribly, you're such that you could not, enjoy the Shabbos with having the peel on the countertop. Whenever you walk into the kitchen, you see the peels, it bothers you. So since it bothers you so much, it's something that is undesirable. It's against your nature of having a neat countertop. So then you could remove the peel because it's something that's undesirable. If it doesn't bother you, then it doesn't bother you. Don't leave it there. Now, so squeezing olives and grapes. So here we have the Torah prohibition would only apply to these two items. Olives for olive oil and grapes for grape juice and wine. Doing that on Shabbos is a Torah prohibition. We're going to go into this more in detail. Same thing is also milking animals. The milk is enclosed. Squeezing is removing a liquid from its enclosure. That would be a Torah prohibition. Now, what is done with the animals that have to be milked? This is something that if they're not milked, that is something painful to the animal. So then it would be permissible, but only in a permissible way that the milk is not going to be used at all. It's going to be discarded. So the only reason why you are milking the animal is in order to alleviate the pain of the animal, and that is permissible. You're not doing it for the liquid content, but rather for the animal's comfort. So then that would be permissible.
It's the same thing like using like a pump for breast milk, right?
That's correct. Also, with the same way as well. Again, it would not be electric; it would be a manual. But again, to alleviate the pain, that would be permissible. Not to store the milk, that would have to be discarded. Number 4, these are all Torah prohibitions: squeezing clothing that is soaked in liquid in order to use the liquid, and we would call that, let's say, a sponge. Everyone knows what a sponge is? Yes, okay. So now, there could be 2 reasons why. Now you have a sponge that is saturated with liquid. There could be 2 reasons why you're going to squeeze it. What would be the 2 reasons? 2 different reasons why you're squeezing a sponge?
Get the water out.
Get the water out, and another reason would be
Clean.
okay. You want to clean with a sponge. So there are 2 different intentions when you are squeezing the sponge. And according to what intention you have, that would go into which category it goes into. So you would say the same thing is also with a rag or a sponge. So one thing would be when you want to wipe your countertop in the weekdays, you're using a sponge. Why are you using a wet sponge? Why not a dry sponge? Wouldn't clean it. So what happens when you're using the wet sponge? What result are you looking for?
Clean.
You want the liquid that's in the sponge to come out and wipe your countertop. So in this case, you're squeezing it to extract the water that's inside the sponge because you want to use the water. You want to use it as a cleaning agent. So that would go into this category of threshing. Having liquid that's enclosed in something and putting on pressure to remove the liquid because you want to use the liquid. Then you have another, after you finished with your cleaning in the weekdays, then what do you do with the sponge? Squeeze it out. Why are you squeezing the sponge there? You don't want the water. You don't want the water in the sponge. So in that case, you want to clean the sponge because as long as it's with the water, that's not the way you want to store the sponge. So therefore, you're squeezing it, and because you want the water out of the sponge to clean the sponge. So in that case, that would be the malacha of cleansing, whitening. Excuse me. Same thing would also be when we're speaking about a cloth. As part of the, we're speaking about, let's say, using a rag. A rag would be the same as the sponge. It's your wet rag, you're wiping. Then when you're finished with it, you wring it because you want the liquid that was that is inside the rag, that is dirty liquid. You want to clean out the rag. So in that case, you're whitening, you're cleaning the rag. So that would be a part of the washing process. Is you soak the garment. So let's say, how would we be washing? You soak the garment. After you soak the garment, step 2 would be if you're washing something by hand. You want something. You want to wash a material by hand. So first of all, you would soak it. What does the soaking do? What does the soaking do?
Get the water.
Loosens the dirt. The next step would be to scrub it. That removes the dirt that's on the surface. And then the third step is to wring it to get the dirty water out. So those are 3 steps when it comes to washing. So the third step, wringing, getting the water out. You don't want to use the water, you're discarding the water, but you want to whiten your garment. You want to clean your garment. So in that case, your action is an action that has to do with washing. The case that we're speaking now is when you want the liquid to come out of the material in order to wash the surface that you're washing. There, you're not concerned about the material, you're concerned about the liquid that's inside the material to use that, make it useful for you. So that's the category that goes into this malacha, which is threshing. Threshing is putting on pressure to remove something that's enveloped, that's something that's absorbed in another material. That's the malacha here.
What would you like to say? Let's say
So first of all, you have to say L'chavat Shabbos Kodesh, because you're saying whatever you're going to do now is doing in the honor of Shabbos. Some people would say, "Oh, it's dirty. How can I walk around like this on Shabbos?" And you say, "Well, I can't do a malach on Shabbos." So L'chavat Shabbos Kodesh, you're honoring the Shabbos. Usually, you honor the Shabbos with clean clothes. In this case, you're not going to do anything until you change to in the honor of Shabbos. You're going to keep it as is until you have a chance to change. What could you do? What you could do is try to take something and you could gently, without squeezing, but sort of try to pat it, that it should gently absorb whatever liquid it was. You don't want to drip, so you can't, but squeezing it out cannot be done. You cannot do anything that's going to stop the stain from setting. Let's say it's grape juice. Usually grape juice, if you don't catch it right away, you're in trouble. So what you cannot do, some people would put on seltzer. You can't do that on Shabbos. You can put on, some people would put on salt. You can't do that on Shabbos. What else will they do in the weekday so the stain doesn't set? You run over and put some water on it, but all these things cannot be done on Shabbos. So what's going to happen with this outfit that's going to now be after Shabbos? You see that the stain is not going to go out. So since you did not do anything to remove the stain for Shabbos, you're going to get yourself a new outfit. And since you're doing it, the L'chavat Shabbos Kodesh, Hashem is going to add to your budget. You should be able to afford the new outfit, the L'chavat Shabbos Kodesh, maybe something even more beautiful than that got ruined. But again, on Shabbos, so even though the first tendency would be trying to save the garment, but Shabbos tells us that that comes first. So the rabbinic prohibitions, let's see, I think over here they go. The rabbinic prohibitions would be squeezing other fruits that people are accustomed to squeeze, so it's rabbinically forbidden. And that would be orange juice. Technically, we said there are only two Torah prohibitions of squeezing the fruit or vegetable for its liquid would be the olives or grapes. Everything else is not a Torah prohibition because from a Torah perspective, squeezing an orange is another form of the orange itself. We would call that puree. So it's not considered an independent liquid. The liquid from a grape is called wine when it matures into wine. So it has its own identity. Orange juice has the same identity as the orange itself. Lemon juice is the same as a lemon, just in another form of the lemon. Like this, it's considered like something like puree, which is still considered halachically a lemon, an orange, an apple. All of these are halachically considered a part of the fruit. It did not change its identity. So therefore, it's not considered that you change it from solid form to liquid form. However, as far as we're concerned, how do we look at a grape? If you were to squeeze the weekdays, the grapes and make fresh grape juice. It's not wine, it's grape juice. And you were to squeeze an orange and make orange juice. To you, would that seem any different? As far as, as you look at it, this is grape juice, this is orange juice. It seems to be the same as far as we're concerned. We're not winemakers. So in that case, we would look at it as the same. And if we were to be accustomed to making orange juice on Shabbos, apple juice on Shabbos, grapefruit juice on Shabbos, we would say, well, you're taking from something that's enclosed, it's a shell, you squeeze it, it comes out. Well, what about the grapes? I'm not making wine, I'm just making grape juice, I'll drink it up right away. So it becomes like a blurred type of distinction. And therefore, the Rabbanan said that all fruits and vegetables that are normally squeezed for its liquid content cannot be done on Shabbos or Yom Tov as well. So even though Yom Tov, we are permitted to do different activities when it comes to cooking, preparing foods, but the squeezing of fresh fruits and vegetables on Yom Tov goes into the same category. However, the Rabbanan said that if you're going to be treating it as a food, then you are permitted to squeeze the fruits and vegetables as long as it's not going to be an independent liquid at any point. It's going to become a part of the food itself. So therefore, like you're making part of a dressing that's going to be directly into the salad that you're dressing. So usually the example would be lemons. So let's speak about the lemon. So we cannot at any point make the lemon juice an independent liquid. We could use the lemon juice for our dressing, and that would include using the lemon juice in a salad, using this lemon juice on salmon, using lemon juice that's going to go directly on the food that you're going to be eating. So we consider that as a part of the food. The Rabbanan took away their restriction. They said, since you're using it as a food, then we're going to give it its halachic status, which means the juice that comes from a lemon is considered a part of the lemon itself. So what you cannot do is have it at any point as an independent liquid. What you cannot do when you're making the dressing, you cannot squeeze the lemon into a cup or into a tablespoon, and then use that from the spoon into your salad. That you could not do, because when you squeeze it into your cup, when you squeeze it into your spoon, it became lemon juice. What you could do is squeeze it directly into your salad.
Or like into your water.
Oh, no, you're squeezing it into water. What is it? You're using it as a liquid. What you could do is you could slice the lemon and put that into your
You can squeeze it on your salad, but you can't squeeze it on your water.
because
Because then you're using it as a liquid.
That's correct.
But if you did the lemon juice before
But for
Shabbos,
whole Shabbos, there's no issue.
you can put it on the water.
No, that's fine. You could put it in the water. You're right now. Our issue is not the lemon juice. Our issue is the squeezing of the lemon. So therefore, if it's lemon juice, it's fine. If it's before Shabbos, it's lemon juice, it's fine. You're able to take out the pits before. All of this could be done. When you're squeezing it directly into your salad, then you could not remove the pits. That goes into another category. So then you would have to be careful what happens with the pits. So so squeezing the fruits and vegetables directly into a food, that is permissible. You cannot even squeeze it into your hand, and from the hand, right now people would wear a glove, you know. At one time, people did a lot of things with their hands and people were comfortable about doing it. You know, you make a dough, you do that with your hands. Do people now use gloves when they're making a dough? Yes, no, okay. But some things so anyway, so you cannot squeeze the lemon into your hand and from the handle go into your salad because you want to catch the pits before they get to the salad. That you cannot do because you're now using your hand as a separator to separate between the lemon and the pits. That cannot be done. So you have to squeeze it directly in if there'll be pits. So you can't pick it up. No, what you could do is you could take everything out and leave the pits behind. So they will be at the bottom of the now squeezing wet hair. What's the issue there? Bringing it. Okay. So technically, would it be, is that a rabbinic prohibition or a Torah prohibition? Again, Torah prohibition is something that is absorbed, that has a liquid that absorbs a liquid, and squeezing it to remove the absorbed liquid, that would be a Torah prohibition. What's the story with the hair? Is it rabbinic or Torah? Which one's the Torah prohibition? What do you?
Yeah, because your hair, like when, no, your hair doesn't absorb the water.
Or hair does not, it retains the water, but there's not.
Your hair itself doesn't like.
That's correct.
Thicken.
That's correct. The hair itself does not absorb the water. Since you have thick hair, the hair retains the water. So it's water that is retained, and then by squeezing it, the water that's retained in the hair, not absorbed in the hair, but retained in the hair, that is forbidden. And therefore, this is rabbinically prohibited because squeezing retained water and squeezing absorbed water seem to us the same thing. You have to think twice before we start saying, what's the story with the hair? Is it absorbed? Is it retained? You have to think about it. It wasn't something that was readily information just like that. So therefore, the Rabbanan said not to squeeze the hair. And therefore, what could you do if you do have wet hair on Shabbos? What do we do? Pat it is fine. You could pat it on the inside, pat it on the outside. As long you could put a towel on your head. It's going to absorb the water gently without actually squeezing it. So you could just keep fluffing your hair and changing the place where you put the towel on your head. So you could keep doing that until shifting it around until it becomes damp, where it's no longer going to water is not going to be squeezed out. Then you could, fluff your hair and everything else that you want to do. What you cannot do is put excuse me. You cannot put the towel over it and then go like this. And maybe people do it in the weekdays. They sort of make a turban and then they do that cannot be done on Shabbos, but you could do it gently and just keep putting it over. So let me get the rest of the attendance. Okay. Talia is here. Bina.
Maybe Zoom?
Bina. No, there was Esther. Who is Esther? Esther is I don't have any Esthers here, do I? Esther.
My last name is Ilyayev. I don't know if I'm on the name sheet.
Yeah. I don't see you on the book. I'll just put you in. Circa. Bill is here tomorrow. Sora Mora. Okay. Here. Anna Sternberg. Rochasima.
She's in level
Oh, the class. Sarah. Kaiskin. Kaya. Yeah. Sophia. Okay. And Leah. And okay, let's see. So,
Tova.
Toba.
I was on Zoom in the beginning of the class, but I
Oh,
was,
okay. So I have you on Zoom.
yeah, but now I'm here.
Okay.
I was like, fancy,
Okay. So. Okay. Let's see. So who did I miss?
Actually, when I walked in, I was still on Zoom, so I heard you twice.
So your
I
name
like heard
is
the door open. I'm like,
Ah,
hey.
yeah.
Kaya. Okay. You have a wonderful Hanukkah.
Have a good Shabbos.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yes.